going on, guys? My name's EFK on the channel, and this is going to be a bit of a different video. I know recently, obviously, I made a video about guitar VCS, but this isn't about VCS, it's about another thing, and this is actually quite related to Evercade in a way. So, I want to talk about Piko Interactive, and basically, I want to talk about commercial presentation, why people just need to shut up on Twitter and stop complaining about Pico's emulating this, whatever. So, but as you know, Piko Interactive is a publisher on Evercade. They've published 4 cartridges. They did obviously the 2 Piko ones and 2 Galco ones. Now, Piko, their whole business model is buying old IPs, whether it be a game, a comic, a cartoon, a toy line, buying up the assets and either basically re-releasing them. On modern platforms as well as re-releasing them on the old systems they were available on, or even porting them to the old systems. Now, why is that? Well, there seems to be some people on Twitter and other social media like YouTube and that. People like Bella News, which, yeah, you're not an idiot. Basically, what these guys do, they sit there and they complain, going, Piko edited these ROMs. Piko shouldn't own these games. They've been telling them to take them off preservation sites. Yeah, because that's how copyright works. I can't go to a film company. I can't go to, say, Warner Brothers and go, okay, I own a DVD of Looney Tunes. I own Looney Tunes now. I'm going to put all that on my site for free, right? Because I don't own the copyright to that, right? It's common sense. And people who will sit there and go, oh, well, I want to support the original developers of this game. Okay. Some of those developers don't exist anymore. Some of those developers have gone out of business, and Pico's just kind of rescuing their IPs, rescuing their games, rescuing their comics, whatever they're buying from them. Right? And people just won't understand that. People don't understand that. And people seem to be up in arms when Piko releases a new game, and people are like, oh, they're a blight on retro gaming. But they support stuff like Sega Mega Drive collections, and SNK compilations, and Capcom collections, and Nintendo re-releasing the Mario Bros. Games for the flipping millionth time. But they argue that they're the original developers. No, they're not. They're the original publishers. Right, what people need to understand about the difference between a developer and a publisher. A publisher is the game company that slaps their logo on the game and pays the developers, the actual staff who make the game, to make the game. Right? So, Piko Interactive is a publisher. Right? Capcom is a publisher. Nintendo is a publisher. The developers that work for these companies are the developers. But the developers don't own the games. The publisher owns the games, right? So when people say, well, I bought the Sega Mega Drive collection because I wanted to play Sonic the Hedgehog and I wanted to support the original creators of Sonic, you do realise most of the stuff that worked on the original Sonic the Hedgehog game have left Sega. They're not at Sega anymore. It's been like 30 years, guys. Come on, wake up. Use your common sense, if you have any. And with Piko as well, Piko seems to be passionate about preservation. I mean, people, well, they're selling it. Well, yeah. Is that not what you're supposed to do? Like, you do realise, right, that everything is capitalism, right? Everything is bought and sold all the time, right? So, if Piko can go to a company who's going out of business and buy up a load of their IPs, or buy up a load of their, cartoons or games or whatever, and preserve them, and, re-release them on models like Steam, or, put them on consoles like the Xbox, the Switch, just PlayStation 4, whatever, they can obviously re-release them on original systems. Why not? Why are you mad about that, right? And people were like, oh, copyright only 20 years. You can argue that, right? You can argue that as much as you want. It doesn't change the fact that it's not. It doesn't change the fact that what Piko's doing, Piko is trying to preserve history, the history of entertainment. I mean, they own a comic publisher. They own a bunch of classic cartoons like Stone Protectors and Legend of Calamity Jane, which, by the way, I backed the Legend of Calamity Jane Kickstarter. I'll leave a link to that in the description if you want to back it, because I don't even know what this show is. It's a Western cartoon. I'm like, alright, cool, I want to back it. It looks cool, And that's the problem. People will sit there on Twitter and it's all what's it? It's all Chinese whispers. If you don't know, there's a British game called Chinese Whispers where you'll tell. I think it's British anyway. Where you tell one person something, but then they repeat what you said, but add their own version to it. So you could say to someone, I like cheeseburgers. And then when it gets to the next person says, I hate chicken. It's all how it is. It's all that's what social media is. Social media is people taking stuff that's been said, changing it around or forming their own opinion of what they've been told, and thinking that they're correct. Right? Commercial preservation is literally what every game publisher does. Right? You can't tell me that Sega isn't a prime example of this. You can't tell me Konami's not a prime example of this. You can't tell me Capcom's not a prime example of this, or SNK or Nintendo, right? So why is it when these major billion-dollar corporations do it, it's fine, but when a small publisher like Pico does it, suddenly it's an issue? And people will say, well, they're not the original developers. Guys, the guy who created the original Bomberman is not at Konami anymore, you know? So why should I be happy to buy Bomberman from Konami? Because it's the same logic. And there's a difference between game preservation and game piracy. See, for me, preservation of something should be a preservation of a game that is not being sold. If it's not available to purchase, then it should be preserved. Simple. Right? If the similar movies, because obviously I work for a website which follows Disney Plus, for instance, and I'm against. I always always push back against everyone else who's like, oh, well, I want this classic title. I'm like, if it's not available for purchase, it should be preserved, right? If it is available for purchase or available in a subscription, legally you should have to pay for it because it's been preserved and it's been available to purchase. Because if you don't pay for it, it's piracy. But people don't understand that. And people tell me, well, your corporation's best friend. I'm actually not. I'm just making the logical statement that if something is available to purchase, legally you should purchase it if you want it. It's not night and day. You can't be like, oh, well, Pico bought Glover and then they re-released Glover, but I'm not going to buy it from them. I want to play the ROM online on a free ROM site. What do you think is going to happen? Because you buying that game are promoting piracy. Well, not buying it, but you playing that game, you're promoting piracy, right? And what people don't understand is piracy, video games, is quite common. And there's an argument that, well, what about game preservation? Game preservation is different. Because game preservation is when a title is preserved and re-released, and re-released and re-released, right? Because that's what Pico's doing. Pico is re-releasing these old games, right? They're preserving them. They're preserving history, right? What some people will do, though, is they're like, well, I mean, for instance, does no one remember the Metroid Dread situation? When Metroid Dread was put on a ROM site to be preserved 3 days after the game released. Now, I don't think a lot of game preservationists actually know what they're talking about, because they just want an excuse to get a game for free. And I've always had the mentality that if you want something, right, and it's available to purchase, you should legally purchase it, because that way you've not broken the law. Because if you take something for free, that when it's not free, you've broken the law. I don't know, maybe some people on the internet just think they're all hard and tough, but with Piko Interactive, right, I don't get why they get so much hate. Like, editing ROMs, I mean, when you've got an unfinished game, why would you release an unfinished game? With a lot of stuff that Piko gets as well, they need to obviously take old logos off it, because a lot of time they've bought stuff from publishers that no longer exist. It's not comparable. It just annoys me because I see all this argument on Twitter all the time. It's just shut up. Anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts about this in the comments down below. Do you think Piko Interactive is overhated? Do you think that they've done something wrong? Like, what could they have done wrong? Just because something you remember from your childhood is now owned by them, I don't get the upset. But apparently, it really matters to retro enthusiasts in some places. I don't see why. Anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. I've been EFK and I'm signing out. Peace.